What even is laziness today? Are you lazy because the constant pressure to produce feels like suffocating underwater? If you're not sprinting, you're shamed. If you rest, you're accused. If you breathe, you're behind. But even Jesus withdrew to lonely places to pray. Stillness wasn't weakness, it was his very weapon. He refused to let the world define productivity when eternity had already defined purpose. We read in 1 John 2:17, "The world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever." Everything the world calls success is already expiring. Every title, every trophy, every grind, they all have an expiration date. But obedience, that's the very thing that outlives this universe. The world calls that lazy, but he calls it faithful. We all inherited the same script. Go to school, take on the loans, work yourself numb, and one day you'll arrive. But arriving never came, did it? Now we're swimming in debt, watching rent rise faster than our paychecks, and somehow the message is still, you're not doing enough. The system thrives on exhausted men too tired to ask why they're building a life they don't even want. So we keep running because stopping feels like failure. But deep down, we know it's the treadmill that's really killing us. A man's life today feels like two roads. One where you run until your soul burns out, chasing paychecks, titles, and approval. The other where you give up completely. You numb the pain. You call it peace and pretend you never cared in the first place. But neither road leads home. And that's the quiet tragedy of our generation. We think we only get these two choices. But there's a third path, hidden in plain sight, the one Christ already walked for us, the narrow road that leads to life. Ecclesiastes 1:14 addresses this exact ache. "I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind." Maybe the world doesn't need faster men. Maybe it needs men who finally stop to ask where the wind is even blowing. We live in this information age, but somehow we're starving for meaning. We carry more data in our pockets than entire generations before us had in their lifetimes, and yet we can't remember the last time we actually felt alive. We can quote podcasts about our purpose. We can explain 10 different morning routines for high performance. We can name every productivity guru, every finance coach, every theologian with a microphone. And still, our souls feel like abandoned houses. The lights are on, but no one's home. There's motion, but no presence. We've mistaken information for intimacy, thinking that knowing about God is the same as knowing God. We've become students of everything and disciples of nothing, always learning, never arriving, collecting answers we never actually live. Because knowledge without wisdom is like inhaling but never exhaling. Your lungs fill with facts until your heart forgets how to beat. We filled our minds with noise and then wondered why we can't hear his voice. You can't download purpose. You can't Google peace. You can't stream wisdom. We don't need more content. We need more conviction. We don't need new methods. We need truth. And truth isn't a trend, it's a person. You can memorize every verse about peace and still lie awake every night without it. Because peace isn't something you learn, it's someone you know. The reason we're restless isn't because we don't know enough. It's because we've built our lives on things that can't hold the weight of eternity. We've filled our heads and starved our hearts. We've mastered how to look informed and forgotten how to be transformed. Jesus said, "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." And that's found in Matthew 15:8. And the point of that is to represent who we are. That's us. We've turned discipleship into a data plan. We're connected but not convicted, busy but not becoming. It's not that God stopped speaking, it's that we've drowned him out with a million other voices, promising what only he can give. And maybe that's the problem. We thought the next book, podcast, or sermon clip would finally wake something up inside us. But you can't think your way into peace. You can't reason your way into purpose. Because wisdom doesn't grow in the same soil as information. Knowledge comes cheap. You can buy it, borrow it, download it. But wisdom costs something. It demands your pride, your comfort, your certainty. Wisdom isn't found in the highlight reels. It's born in the nights you thought God forgot your name. It's what's left after your strength fails, after your plans collapse, after every voice that promised you clarity goes silent. We've confused knowing things about life with knowing the one who gives it. But true wisdom begins when you stop asking, "How do I fix this?" and start asking God, "What are you trying to form in me through this?" That's when understanding becomes faith. That's when pain turns into purpose. That's when you finally stop chasing control and start learning surrender. Because wisdom doesn't come through Wi-Fi. It comes through wounds. It's learned in failure, refined in silence, and tested in waiting. Our generation runs from those things. We treat suffering like it's an interruption instead of the invitation that it is. We medicate what was meant to mature us. We drown out the discipline of stillness with constant noise, because silence is where God starts speaking again. And we read in Proverbs 1:7, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." Fear, not panic, but awe. That trembling awareness that He's God and we're not. The world says control everything, but Jesus says surrender everything. One builds anxiety, the other builds peace. And maybe that's why we feel so exhausted, because we've been trying to live wise lives without ever bowing before the one who gives wisdom in the first place. And that's where I think this third option really comes out. And the third option is Jesus. He isn't another self-help step or productivity hack. He's the rescue plan you were never meant to write yourself. He doesn't enter your life to judge the mess. He walks straight into the smoke and sits in it with you. He doesn't flinch when you fail. He doesn't leave when you push him away. And you know what I mean when there's these seasons where we ghost God, where we stop praying because shame whispers He's disappointed in you. And that's where He stays the longest. He's the friend who doesn't leave when the party's over. He's the shepherd who refuses to cross your name off the roster even when you've wandered into every valley imaginable. You slammed the door and yet He waited on the porch. You deleted the number and He still called your name. You cursed Him under your breath and He blesses you anyway. That's who He is. That's who He's always been. And while the world measures you by output, Jesus measures you by outpouring. How open your heart still is to Him. He doesn't need your progress report. He wants your presence. And we read in John 15:5, Jesus says, "I am the vine. You are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing." And I say this because I think all of us have tried everything, whether it's discipline, motivation, dopamine, but all these things run dry, and only He can breathe life into dead soil. Only He can turn exhaustion into purpose. This isn't religion, it's resurrection. The third option isn't quitting or overworking. It's abiding. It's learning to be before you try to become. So maybe you're not lazy, you're just suffocating. Maybe your spirit has been holding its breath for years, trying to survive on likes, paychecks, and approval, when it was built to live on presence. You were never created to carry the world's metrics. You were created to walk with your Maker. And I want to ask you this question of when was the last time you breathed without guilt? When's the last time you sat in silence and didn't feel the urge to check your phone? That ache inside of you, the one that you call boredom, isn't boredom. It's spiritual oxygen deprivation. Your soul is gasping, and Jesus doesn't yell, "Work harder." He whispers, "Come to me." Not after you fix yourself, not once you've proven your worth, but right here, in the middle of all the chaos, in the middle of all the confusion of life. Jesus says in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That's not a motivational quote. That's the antidote to modern life. You don't need a vacation, you need resurrection. You don't need motivation, you need meaning. You don't need to start over. You need to finally surrender. So maybe it's time to breathe again, to remember that you were made for more than endless motion, to remember that peace isn't the absence of struggle, it's the presence of someone stronger than the storm. Because the world offers noise, but Jesus offers oxygen, and until you let Him fill your lungs, you'll keep mistaking exhaustion for identity. So stop running and surrender the outcome of your life to Him. And I want to take a moment in this video to kind of just give my raw thoughts on this. I don't think people are lazy for wanting to spend time with people they love, right? And that means you not wanting to work 10 hours a day is totally normal. In fact, that's what we all should want. I think the people who say that you ought to want to work 16 hours a day, I think something's wrong. I think something's wrong with them. I don't think anyone on planet Earth should ever want to work so much to where they neglect the things that matter the most in their life. And I think Jesus is in 100% alignment with that very idea. It's not that working hard is bad. It's when working hard becomes your very identity. It becomes an idol in your life. And everything you do revolves around this idea that all of your value is in what you can output for your company or for whatever it is that you think brings fulfillment to your life, when the only thing that should matter is who Jesus says you are the things you do every single day to glorify God. and everything else is secondary, right? I think about when people are on their deathbed, not to make this super bleak, but when people are on their deathbed, they wish they would have spent more time with the people they love the most. And so maybe some of you watching this video, the best thing you can do right now is to spend more time with the people you love and stop focusing on that number in your bank account. Stop focusing on grinding and trying to create this perfect life you've imagined in your head, because whatever life God has for you is going to be far better than the life you can try and claw your way into. If you just release that control onto Him, I promise you He will show you a life that's far greater than anything you could ever create for yourself. That's what He promises. That's what He did for us on the cross, is give us something far greater than anything we could ever imagine. And so if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought down below in the comment section. Smash the like button, subscribe, share the video with your friends, and as always, God bless.